your experiences. So hello to everybody that is in attendance here today. I'm Orla, I'm the ECR officer for Palas. My co-host again this evening is Nydia, our new diversity officers. So Nydia just joined Palas this month, so I've ringed her into these already. So you're very welcome, Nydia. And of course, very welcome to our two expert panelists that we have here today, Dr. Arnaud Bollet and Dr. Tori McCoy. Thank you both so much for joining. First of all, I'm going to just share my own screen, and I'm going to go through a few kind of brief main points of the Newton International Fellowship from the Royal Society, and then we'll dive into the discussion on the fellowship itself. So let me just share my screen with you all. Let's see. So hopefully all of you can see that. Maybe Nidhi, if you just want to give me a thumbs up so I know I can definitely carry on. Okay, great. I'm just going to make myself small here so I can see my own slides. So thank you all for joining. Again, this is brought to you by the Paleontological Association, and we are going to talk about the Newton International Fellowship. So for those of you that don't already know, the fellowship is in fact for non-UK scientists who are at an early stage of their research career and wish to conduct research in the UK. To be eligible to apply, you must already have your PhD awarded to you, or you will have it awarded by the time that the funding starts. And you mustn't have more than 7 years of active full-time postdoc experience at the time of the application deadline, discounting to career breaks, which you can get a full disclosure and idea of what those career breaks are on the website in a detailed PDF format. You must be working outside of the UK when you apply and not hold a UK citizenship. Applicants who completed their PhD in the UK in a UK organisation and want to return using the Newton International Fellowship, you can of course apply, but there needs to be a year between you having left the UK, working elsewhere before the deadline of your first application. So you need 1 year outside of a UK organisation outside of the UK before you can come back. The fellowship provides 2 years of funding on a full-time basis, or you can do a part-time depending on your health reasons or caring responsibilities, which again, there's a full breakdown of those on the website. You also need to check with this one, the host institution and whether or not that's actually eligible to host you during those 2 years. So generally speaking, all UK higher education institutions that are funded by the UK higher education body generally are eligible to receive the funds from the Royal Society, but also there are IROs, so independent research organisations, that can also be eligible under the Royal Society to receive the fellowship funding for you. But you need to check for the breakdown of these IROs on the website. In total, for those 2 years, you can apply for up to £280,000 as of 2024. And applications can be submitted online using the Royal Society Grants Management System, which is called the Flexi Grant. And there's loads of details on how to navigate that grant system on the website, which is just listed below, which is theroyalsociety.org. Here you can find lots of tools, online, YouTube recordings about the Newton International Fellowship, along with detailed breakdowns of the scheme in PDF format. So please refer to there for more detailed understanding of the actual application process. Today, I'm very delighted to introduce Dr. Arnaud Bollet from the University of Barcelona and Dr. Tori McCoy from the University of Wisconsin in the US. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to let the experts discuss their experience with obtaining this grant over the last couple of years. And I would be interested to know, basically, after that, how you found it and how it's helped you progress in your career. So I will hand it over to whoever wants to go first. I'm looking at Arnaud, if you would like to maybe share your screen first on your experience.
Sure. Thank you.
You can take 10 minutes for as long as you need.
Okay, thank you. So can you see the presentation now? Yep. So I'm Arnau Bolet. I'm a researcher actually at Institut Català de Paleontologia Miquel Crusafont, which is at the Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona. But the main reason I'm here is because I was at University of Bristol, and I'm still an honorary research associate at Bristol. So this is not changing the... Sorry, it's not changing the slide. Okay. First of all, just so that you know what I'm working about, my research is about fossil amphibians and reptiles, mainly small lizards. And you can see here a few examples of fossils I've studied. I prepared this slide where I show my career divided into technical aspects and research, because this is relevant to how the Newton International Fellowship helped me focus on research. So I started with full-time dedication to fieldwork as a technician in excavations, and then as a director of excavations. In 2009, I started my PhD at Institut Català de Paleontologia Miquel Crusafont in Barcelona, funded by the Spanish government. And then after reading my PhD thesis in 2014, it took me a while to get a postdoctoral position. It took me actually 4 years. It was 4 years of part-time dedication to fieldwork in order to have some money, and part-time dedication to unpaid research. And I also had my first child. So it was a period of time where doing research was really tough. Then I got my Newton International Fellowship, and I moved to Bristol in 2018. And everything seemed to go much better in terms of getting funding for research after that. So after these 2 years in Bristol, I spent 3 years back in Barcelona with a Juan de la Cierva Incorporación Fellowship. This is an important fellowship of the Spanish government again. Then I had a María Zambrano Fellowship at the Universidad de Granada. And finally, I just started my new position 1 month ago, which is a Ramon y Cajal Fellowship, again at Institut Català de Paleontologia Miquel Crusafont. This should become a permanent position, hopefully in 5 years. So I was sharing this because the most problematic part of my career was these 4 years after my PhD. And then after the Newton International Fellowship, everything seemed much more easy. So I also wanted to show you that getting into Bristol was not that easy. I started contacts in 2014. I applied to the Marie Curie, which was rejected with a rather low score. In 2015, the score increased, but it was rejected too. In 2016, who would be my advisor suggested that I should apply also to the Newton International Fellowship, which was also rejected. And in 2017, the Marie Curie was rejected, but I did get the Newton International Fellowship. The year after that, I got another rejection for the Marie Curie. So finally, I started in 2018 at Bristol. I was sharing this because we sometimes see the CV of another researcher, and it seems that he or she is very successful in getting these fellowships, but we don't see is the rejections in other fellowships. So you can see here that I got many other rejections before getting this postdoctoral position. So regarding the proposal, my advice is that the project needs to be innovative. So you need to show that no one has done the same before you. You need a clearly defined research plan. You need to show that your CV is strong and that you are able to lead a good research. And you need to choose an adequate host institution, UK sponsor, and mainly the nominated referees. This was quite difficult for me. I had someone in mind, and when I contacted them, they were not able, just because their time schedule, or because they had other candidates to the Newton Fellowship. This is especially important for when you need a referee from the United Kingdom, because they sometimes have other candidates. So an advice would be to contact them as soon as possible. And finally, you need a training narrative. This is, you need to communicate that you learn these techniques before, but you need to learn new techniques, and you need to do this at this specific institution, at your host institution. I show here the aims of the scheme because we sometimes focus so much on the project and on the on our own CV that we forget about showing that we can contribute to the aims of the scheme. So we need to show that we are talented early career researchers that want to establish their research in the UK, at least for some time, that we will pursue high quality research by acquiring new skills that we can only learn at the host institution, and that we will build a network of collaborators from the United Kingdom. So what did the obtention of the Newton International Fellowship do for my research? As I said, I returned to full-time paid research after 4 years of work as a technician. I got experience abroad. I learned new techniques. This allowed me to publish in high-profile journals. I also built a huge network of international collaborators. And also, there is some follow-on funding for small projects when you finish your fellowship, which is not interesting for the money, because it's not that much money, but because you can be the PI of those projects. And this, together with the rest of points I show, this make your CV much more competitive, and then it's much easier to get subsequent postdoctoral positions. I briefly show some of the results of my research during the Newton International Fellowship. This was a paper that was the main output of my project. It was published in eLife, and it dealt with macroevolutionary trends of squamates. But I was also able to publish papers in current biology or contribute to papers in Science or scientific reports. based on the techniques that I learned in Bristol. This is just to show the network of collaborators. This is an output from the repository of the University of Bristol. But what I sometimes use for my applications now is this map of showing the countries where my collaborators are based. So this shows that you have a good network of international collaborators. Yeah, just to sum up, my experience was extremely positive. I think that I might not be in research now if it wasn't for this Newton Fellowship. I must say that funding at that time was not extremely generous, but I think that it has raised a lot since then. And another problem was that the award holder was not hired by the host institution. I think that this has changed now too, but maybe someone can confirm. And then there was the personal cost of moving abroad without my family, but this is not a problem of this call in particular, but my personal situation and how the research career works. And that's it. Thanks for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Arno. That was really informative. I really appreciate it. I'll encourage anyone now to put any of your questions that you have immediately for Arno into the Q&A so that we can get back to those questions with Arno straight after we've talked to Tori. So Tori, I'll let you talk now for as long as you need about your experiences, you know, maybe a bit of your background as well and on what you're doing now. And that would be great if you could share that now, and then also encourage everyone that when questions pop into your head, please put them into the Q&A, and then we'll do a full Q&A after we've talked to you, Tori.
Right, sounds good. Yeah, so I'm Tori McCoy. I'm currently an assistant professor at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And I had a Newton International Fellowship from 2015 to 2017. This was right after my PhD, and it was actually my PhD advisor who suggested this postdoc. And you'll hear a lot of very similar things to what Arno said. I think we agree a lot on some of the key ideas, because I also had many, many failed applications to other postdocs and grants before I got this one. And one of those was a postdoc to work with a well-known amber researcher looking at soft tissue taphonomy in amber. So when I was applying for the Newton Fellowship, I just kind of repurposed that project initially. I had done a lot of work on taphonomy for my PhD, specifically in carbonate concretions, and I knew I wanted to continue that area of research, but in a slightly different direction to build that sort of broader expertise. So my UK host was Dr. Sarah Gabbett at the University of Leicester. So I'd been familiar with her work as well, because she does a lot with taphonomy and concretions. So I approached her with my project idea, and she was very interested in looking at tissue taphonomy in amber. But she had also been kind of building a research plan to look at protein preservation in fossils, and thought that amber might be a really good place to look for that. So we combined the two of these into one bigger project on soft tissue and biomolecule preservation in amber. And I will note, it looks like Arno did some amber research. So maybe that's the real key to get this fellowship, is focus on amber. And then, yeah, and it kind of helps, I think, to have something, you know, in our application, we referred to Jurassic Park. We kind of talked about how cool fossils in amber are. And gave some really broad examples of why this project was interesting, because, you know, I think they try and get some referees who are familiar with your research area, but there's no guarantee it'll be people who are direct experts in your specific project. So it's good to focus on why it's significant and interesting in a way that is generally going to be understandable. Then for the application, we almost had a catastrophe, actually, because like always, it went down to the wire. In this case, so the deadline was actually that Dr. Gabbett was going out into the field where she would have no internet or phone access. So we were frantically finishing the application while she was in the airport waiting to board her plane. We finally finished it. She pressed submit, turned off her computer and left. and there was an error and the application didn't actually submit. So I spent a lot of time calling various people to try and find a way to get it submitted, and the Royal Society was able to find the incomplete application and just press the submit button on their end, basically. Fortunately, it went through and we got the application, was successfully funded. And I think, yes, some of the reasons I think why it was funded was not just that, you know, we had this interesting project that was kind of one of the very early projects to look at protein preservation in amber, and doing soft tissue preservation in amber, which there had not been a lot of research on that at the time, but also because we had a really strong research plan and really strong collaborators. So the University of Leicester had a clean lab, which is really important for these ancient biomolecule studies. Dr. Gabbett had a number of collaborators in ancient protein labs, where the main one was at the University of York, which is fairly close. So we were able to work with them on those analyses. I had connections at the synchrotron at Argonne National Lab. So we were able to do synchrotron tomography to look at tissue preservation. There was like a rare trees nursery in Leicester where we could buy trees to get amber for our experiments, all sorts of things like these. So we were really able to explain how we could definitely do the research and carry it out well. And then when it came to actually doing the research, everything went fairly smoothly. It actually really helped that there was not just the stipend, which, like Arno said, was on the low side for postdocs, but it was enough. But it also had funds to actually do the research, which is helpful because we didn't need to look for additional funding to pay for analyses and everything. Although we did find there was something weird with it where I at least was not able to pay for any analysis I did at my host institution. So I could pay for supplies I purchased or analyses done at the University of York, but at the University of Leicester, I couldn't use these funds to pay for things. But in any case, yes, I think I got a few papers as well, 3 or 4 out of this postdoc, and then I've continued my collaborations with the group there. Until today, I'm still collaborating with people at the University of Leicester, and we have some open projects. And I'm also still an honorary research fellow at the University of Leicester. And then, yeah, and I found that the alumni funding was very helpful as well to continue going back. And it just is helpful to be able to travel back to keep the collaborations going. And yeah, the amount of money isn't key. It's just having that in-person travel really helps, having in-person discussions, doing analyses in those labs and so on. So yeah, then after the Newton Fellowship, I then went on to another postdoc funded by the German Research Foundation at the University of Bonn. And this was really built directly on what I did as part of the Newton Fellowship. The University of Bonn was applying for a big research network, which is many projects with many PIs. One of them was related to chemical analyses of amber and fossil plants, which was very similar to some of what I was doing for the Newton Fellowship. They got the reviews back and were told they needed someone who had done this type of work before. So they actually just reached out to me and asked if I could be a postdoc on the project. So that worked out really well for me. Again, it broadened my network to include, you know, because I'm American and had done all my education up to my PhD in America, I had a big network there. After the Newton, I had a network in the UK. And then following that, I built some, you know, European and German collaborators as well. I developed different areas of expertise and so on. And I think all of that then helped get my current position at UWM. I think that's about it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tori. That was it was really interesting to hear. Since we're both in the same field, it's nice to hear a full I met you, I think, during your Newton International Fellowship.
Yeah.
So it's nice to hear about the full story.
Yeah.
On the other end of it now. So thank you both again for sharing your experiences. Wow, there's like a lot to take away from that. I have a lot of questions by myself, but I am going to open it up to the attendees first before we get started. So I'm going to hand over to my co-host, Nydia. Nydia, if you want to look at the Q&A there and see if there's any questions that have come in already.
Yeah, so we have 2 questions. Can you hear me? Yeah. So we have 2 questions. So if anyone thinks of any other question, please post them now, because we're going to start answering. So Sonia Clara Camina asked, how much time in advance did you start writing and searching for the final project? So that's directed to both of you, whomever wants to start.
I really can't remember the exact I think the first time I wrote it rather fast, so maybe a few months, 2 months at most. But it was actually a week project because of that, because of the short time I dedicated to it. So it was much better the second time. That's why I think I got the fellowship. So yeah, I would say that probably at least 4 months before the the end of the deadline, it would be possibly enough.
Yeah, I also don't remember specifically, but like I said, I think both I and Dr. Gavitt, my UK host, we both had previously kind of prepared these projects for other applications. And we still took a lot of time to put them together and reframe them for a broader audience of reviewers. But we certainly spent a lot of time counting previous applications and this one to put together a good project.
From the sounds of it, I think it's from both the rejections and experience of writing previous applications that kind of helps booster how much time you need to give, I guess, and not just a once off. I mean, if it's the first time you're writing an application, I guess the sooner you start, the better.
Yeah,
And more experienced of a writer you become. So
yeah.
Thank you both. The next question in the chat there is, oh, I don't have a name, but it says a general question on eligibility for people who have already spent part of their career in the UK. The rules say you have to have been away from the UK for at least a year to be eligible, but are there any soft limits on how much time you have already worked in the UK? For example, I currently work abroad, but have done a PhD and postdoc in the UK. That's a good question. I'm not sure. As from what I've read online, I would say immediately that I know that it's not a problem if you've done your PhD there, but in terms of already having done a postdoc, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure, Arno or Tori, do you know either?
I think you are allowed to have a postdoc there as long as you go outside the country for a minimum period of time, which I don't know if it's 1 year or more. I'm not sure, and this possibly changes every year. So, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that the information is there. It should be in the notes of the scheme for sure.
Absolutely. And I would also point out that the Royal Society, I've emailed them a few times in the past, and they've always been really quite quick with response. There's not so many people on the receiving end who are actually working in the Royal Society helping with these applications, but they're very responsive and really great for asking questions. So I would definitely go there. And from the rules that I'm aware of is that as long as there is at least a minimum of a year gap between the PhD being in a UK organization and being outside, I think is the main thing. And as long as obviously you haven't held a permanent position in the UK previously, I think they're the main two concepts, but I would definitely get in contact with the Royal Society to check out the postdoc aspect of that. So thank you for your question. Nydia, I think there's another question
Yeah,
there.
there's another one. So another anonymous question, and it says the training and mentorship statement is to be uploaded by the applicant, and I am curious as to how to go about writing it. I mean, should I write it as I or more of a passive voice?
So for me, this statement was actually written by Dr. Gavitt, the UK sponsor. And I think, often you have to write that type of statement for grant applications that do fund postdocs. So I think she just repurposed a previous grant application and I think wrote it in third person, or sort of saying that the postdoc will be trained in this way. So potentially if your host has experience writing these statements, they can help you at least put that together or provide a draft of it.
Arnaud, do you have anything to add?
No, I agree. Yeah.
So I guess like I had a question on my mind. I guess Tori just answered it. So I was going to ask if you always write applications with whomever you're going to work at a research institution, at your host research institution, but I didn't know that it's actually your future host who writes the application. So you approach the host with an idea, a project, and then that's written up by the host and submitted by them, right?
No, so
No.
the
Okay.
like research proposal we wrote together, I think I had a draft of it, Dr. Gabbett added to it, and we sent it back and forth. In my case, Dr. Gabbett did write a lot of the short answer questions about the mentoring plan, I think the one about benefit to the UK, benefit to the host institution. What will the host institution provide? But I don't know if that's standard. Again, I think she told me she could write those up quickly and did it. And I think, as Arno mentioned, yeah, it's really good to contact your UK sponsor very far in advance to make sure they're excited about it and can help with writing stuff.
Yeah, in my case, I wrote most of the project. Then we had discussions about how we could improve some parts, but there are some parts that the host institution needs to provide. For example, what you will have when you get to the host institution, you don't know. You don't know if you will have an office or a laptop or whatever specific equipment you need. So they sometimes have something written about some parts of the application that they share with all the applicants that they go to this institution. So some parts of the application is actually shared with other applicants. But most of the project, I think that you should be the one who writes the project with help of the advisor. Yeah.
Thank you. Shall I continue the next one, Ola, or do you want to? Yeah. Okay. So Sayoni, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope I am. Can you guide which institution hosts application for research in invertebrate, especially mollusks, paleobiogeography? So any idea which host institution would be the best for that? I think Sayoni maybe sorry, I was hearing there's someone. Maybe try to research online who is actively publishing on those fields and try to get in contact with them. If they're not interested in host you, they might know someone who will be. Okay. Shall I continue, Orla?
Yeah, I think so. I would have the same response if there's particular fields that you're looking for. I mean, invertebrates in general is a pretty wide field, and obviously the UK is a massive base for any sort of paleontological studies. So I would definitely, as Nydia said, reach out to some of the experts in your field, and I'm sure they can guide you in the right direction of maybe who better to host you, depending on the kind of research questions that you're wanting to investigate as well. And of course the chat is there. Maybe if anyone else wants to help out and can recommend something, please do. So yeah, we can move on to the next. I think there's a few more questions actually coming in now, so keep them coming.
Okay, so Michael says, hi everyone, and thank you for your presentations. Going back to what Arnau said, does the fellowship comprises a salary, or the host institution has to find another fund to hire you?
The thing is that this has changed from when I applied, so I'm not sure about this. Again, the information is there in the scheme notes. I think that there is a difference between two types of institutions, and one of the institutions covers your salary, and the other one I think that the institution has to put some money, and in the other one, the Newton Fellowship covers everything. But I'm not sure about that. You should go to the notes, because this has changed for sure since I applied.
I believe for me, I think the Newton covered everything. I don't think the University of Leicester had to cover everything. But I think there's some, like, I don't know if it was technically counted as a salary. I mean, I did get paid,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it went through the university or if it was like the Newton paid it directly to me somehow. And I think, so there might be some technical thing about whether it's a salary or something else. But yeah, but I'm not the person who can answer that.
Yeah. In my case, back then, it was not a salary for sure. It went through the university, but it was not a salary. But I think that this has changed. So they should check the notes, because I'm quite sure that the information is there.
I agree. I think I did see something when I was looking up some things earlier today. There is a new sort of guidelines for the Newton and how that works in terms of payment from the institution. I've just put in the chat there a link to the Royal Society and the Newton scheme. And in there somewhere they do have sort of a breakdown of some of the newer rules that have been introduced to the scheme. So I encourage people to look there and skim it for that kind of information.
Yeah, that would be an advice for all fellowships. Spend some time researching the most up-to-date guidelines. They usually change from year to year, even if you get a successful applicant sharing their application or parts of the application with you, still spend some time to research all up-to-date guidelines, because things might have changed from one year to other, and you don't want to submit something that is not going to be even accepted for submission. Okay, so there is another question here. Sinjini, I really hope I'm saying that right. I'm so sorry if I'm not. So any suggestion on how would you structure the budget document? Do you include salaries, conference cost, or just the research/analysis cost? What would you include on the budget?
Again, I think that there must be some guide in the notes, because I really can't remember if I put detail on that, but you usually have to choose regarding what is asked in the notes. So maybe there you can see if you need to give some detail on that or not.
You should
really
put
don't-
everything. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I really don't remember if I did or not, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think you should put everything that you're using the fellowship funds for, which would include some payment to you. Again, whether, I think we're unclear on whether it's technically a salary or something else, but that should go in there. Research activities, definitely travel you plan to do, but all of these you have to check and see what's allowable costs. I think it covers conference travel, but I don't remember. But you have to make sure that's allowed, of course, before you put it in your budget.
Something we've been hearing in the other seminars is, if you are required to add budgeting, try to add to the maximum, because if the fellowship is awarded and you didn't add the maximum budgeting, you might be sorry then, because there is always unexpected expenses. So yeah, if you're allowed to apply for 200,000, then apply for 200,000. Okay, so there is another question here. Another anonymous attendee. I was wondering if applying is possible when you already have a permanent position in a non-UK institution, or if that would be somehow disadvantageous. Who wants to start there?
The thing is that I don't know if there is any rule against that, because this is rare, because it's rare that you have a permanent position if you still, if it's been a few years since you read your PhD, because this is for early career researchers. I don't know how many years after your PhD you can apply, but it's weird that you have a permanent position. So I don't know if there is a rule against that or not. And even if there is not, I don't know if this is disadvantageous for your application or not. Maybe they want to give the money to someone that doesn't have a permanent position, but I don't think there is a rule for that.
Yeah, I think I also don't know whether it would be disadvantageous or not. I think if you want to do a postdoc and want this fellowship, as long as there's no rule against it, you might apply anyway and just see if you get reviewer comments back or see if it's successful, as long as it's not too much of a time drain to work on it. But it never hurts to apply, even if you think you don't have a strongest application.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, another anonymous question. How to strike the balance between writing for a broad audience while also being technically sound? Anyone want to start? For now?
That is
That's a
difficult.
difficult one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
go
sorry.
ahead, Arno. Go ahead.
The problem with that is not just finding the sweet spot, but that this depends on who reads your proposal to. So you can be very specific and have a reviewer that doesn't like it, or the other way around. So you actually need to be in the middle, probably.
I think to some extent in places like the background section or where you talk about the broader significance of the project, you can go fairly broad. Then when you talk about things like the method and the specific research plan, you do want to be more specific there and try and be very technically sound. But I think one approach to that, where you're not bogging the application down in technical details, is to really focus on, we will be using the methods that are already well understood, and you can just put some citations. You can summarize the method, but don't have to give exact technical details. You can explain how the expertise of you and your UK sponsor is very strong, giving a few examples and citing published papers, again, without going into specific details. You can talk about how you're collaborating with people who have the strong expertise, again, just giving a broad overview of their expertise and citing papers. So things like that. So sometimes showing the feasibility of a project doesn't require, giving very specific technical details, but instead just showing that everyone involved and all the facilities that are available, the specimens that are available, all of these, the people have the expertise, the facilities are the ones you need, and the specimens are available. Like that usually can be broad and understandable and will show the project is feasible.
And just to buffer that question as well, I guess when looking at it, I'm presuming both your projects were reviewed under the biological sciences sector, and therefore you're going to get reviewers from that broad range of biological sciences, I assume, reviewing that. So you need to keep that in mind, I guess, as well, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Sorry, I've lost track now where we are in the Q&A. Which ones are at the?
Yes, so all the answer ones should be gone answered. So yeah, the one of the is, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is great. Keep the questions coming in. What would be your recommendation for someone who is applying from final year of PhD?
I can start from this because I did apply from the final year of my PhD. But I think, to be honest, there's no different recommendations than I would give to anyone else. It is all going to be about, what your record looks like, what your experience looks like. And that's if coming out of your PhD, that's probably going to be weaker than if you did other postdocs in between, but it can still certainly be strong enough to get the application. Especially, I think one thing it might be coming out of your PhD, your background will be more specialized without the extra expertise you would get from additional positions. So I think it's important to hit just the right balance of a project that builds upon your previous expertise, but is not within your narrow sort of PhD project. I think one thing that's not a big deal, but I think that I had to do because I was applying before I received my PhD is you'll need a letter from your department chair or someone saying that you will have your PhD by the time the project starts. But I believe that's all covered in the application guidelines.
Thank you.
just-
Yeah, isn't it? You have, sorry. I was
Sorry,
just going to
just one addition.
Yes, Arno, go ahead. Sorry.
If you mainly if you have few publications because you didn't have time to publish a lot during your PhD, maybe focus on your potential rather than what you did. So maybe your publications show that you can do very good research, even if they are low in number. So focus on how this can translate in more publications, mainly if you are trained to do additional to use additional techniques, which is why you want to go to your host institution. So I would advise that you focus on your potential. Again, you need to talk about what you did before, but not just that. Okay.
May I ask a quick question following that? Do you, if your application is rejected, do you know if you get any feedback?
I think you don't get any feedback. I can't remember if you get a score, but I read somewhere that you don't get any feedback because they have so many applications that they don't share that.
My advice to this question would be, applying for your PhD. In doubt, always apply, because the worst thing that can happen is that you get a no. You have to apply again next year, but at least you'll have the experience and you will have some, like a project already written down that you can develop during the year in between applications, and hopefully will be better the year after. I'm very surprised that they don't give any feedback. Like, I think all fellowship applications should give some kind of feedback. I know about the Marie Curie. I applied the first year. I got a lot of feedback that was really, well, some things were helpful, some things were not helpful. But then the year after, when I applied again, I got a higher grade, and the Marie Curie was awarded. But so I don't really understand why other fellowships don't offer the feedback. Even if you ask for it, they won't give it to you. Do you know?
I never asked for it because there was in the letter of rejection there was a sentence that said we cannot give feedback on each application.
Okay, that's something that it should change, in my opinion.
Maybe this has changed because it was long ago, but yeah, that was like that back then for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know for this one, or sorry, yeah, my application was successful the first time, but I have for other applications, even if they don't give feedback, I have sometimes reached out and been able to get review reports. So again, if they still specifically say they don't give feedback, it might not be worth it. But if they don't say that, it's always worth trying to reach out.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. We have another anonymous question. From your experience writing the fellowship and from any feedback/reviews you received, what are the areas that are most important to cover in main research proposal in order to make a case for your project? Sure. Tori, do you want to start first?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say because I don't know that there is any one most important point, right? Like you do, I think, clearly want to show that it's going to be interesting and innovative research, but you also clearly want to show that it's feasible and you have a plan that brings in sufficient expertise and facilities and everything. I guess the main thing is just is really think carefully about what they ask you to show in the proposal or what they ask you to describe, and just don't put in anything extraneous. Try and very clearly include those points. And if they ask about like significance of the project, consider using that exact wording, right? This project will be significant because, or have a section titled significance. Make it very, very easy for the reviewers to tell, if they have a checklist of items to look for, that they can very easily spot those items, assess them.
Make it as obvious as possible.
Exactly, yeah.
I like that advice.
Yeah.
Steer them towards the main important parts.
Yeah.
Arno, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, the easy answer is that all parts of the project need to be strong, but I think that the methods is where you show if you know what you're talking about. So the methods, as Tori said, you need to put some detail there, just because you need to show that you are talking about something that you are capable of doing. You obviously need a good introduction so that the reviewer is not bored when he reaches or she reaches the other part. And then the significance, you need to show them that you are doing something good enough to get this funding. So yeah, you need to go right part for the significance. So yeah, everything needs to be at least balanced. You cannot write a very weak part, because this will probably you will probably get a low score there, and that's enough to lower your score, your general score, so that you don't get the fellowship. So it needs to be balanced.
And sometimes what I'll do when I'm working on a fellowship application or any type of application is, if they give specific instructions for what to include, what aspects of the project to talk about, I'll write my proposal, then I'll pick a color for each aspect on their list and go through and highlight the sections of my proposal that address each point. If anything's not highlighted, I try and take it out. And if there's a color that's missing enough in the proposal, I try and expand that area. So I found that has helped me. And maybe that would be useful for other people as well.
I'm keeping that trick for the future.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Thanks.
I guess how much do you think then as well, just to kind of poke a little bit more attention on this question as well, with your overall application, how important do you think it is that you are reaching out to your UK-based scientists that's supporting that application within that host institution? How much did they sort of guide you and help you through the application? Was there much support, Tori, from the sounds of it? Dr. Gabbett was very supportive for you. Was it the same experience for you, Arno? Like, how important is that relationship with that collaborator?
Yeah, in my case, it was I was working with Mike Benton, so I actually reached him to ask him about another postdoctoral position, and it was his idea to write first the Marie Curie application and then the Newton International Fellowship application. So because I was expected to take my expertise in lizards, but work with techniques that they were using at Bristol, he contributed a lot in the writing of the project. Maybe not in the writing, but in proposing ideas that I should study. So Then,
Like sort of helping steering you in the right direction, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he read a lot of versions of the projects because, for example, the Marie Curie, we submitted it 5 times. So he spent a lot of time reading applications. But in the end, it was worth the time, actually.
And continue with this question, do you think it is important as well to add a caveat saying, if my hypothesis is not proven, this fellowship will still be worth it because it will prove this other thing. So then it's like saying your money is not lost, even if I'm wrong in my hypothesis.
I think
Yeah.
definitely. Go ahead, Arno.
Sorry. Many applications, they explicitly ask for a contingency plan if your hypothesis fails. I don't think it's the case in the Newton Fellowship, but it's worth writing for sure. Because it shows that you know that things can go wrong, and you know what to do if this happens. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't remember what we did specifically, but I think it's always good to show that no matter how the results turn out, it'll tell you something interesting or tell you something new. And it can be as specific, if it fails, this is what we'll do, or it can be like for me, because we were looking at just soft tissue and protein preservation in amber, either we find for the proteins, either we get proteins and that's exciting, or we don't. And you can't really build upon it if they're not there, but that tells us about the processes of preservation in amber. It tells us don't waste more time destroying samples to look for proteins, things like that, So.
Thank you. This question has really developed quite a lot. Do you have anything else to add, Orla?
No, thank you both. That was really useful. We have another question here. See from Anath. I'm so sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly there. Can you discuss how in depth the research proposal and methodologies should be written in? I applied for the 1851 recently, which was broader but just 2 pages, but the application for the NIF seemed to be more specific. It's also just 3 pages, however. So the main question is how in depth you're going with the proposal and the methodologies.
Yeah, it's a very short application, and I think we really struggled to get it within the length limit. And I think, again, I think the most important thing is you have to give enough information that your reviewers believe the project is doable and that you've thought about it. But you can give the bare minimum that provides that information, and you can really sort of lean heavily on citations, I find.
Yeah, I've had trouble sometimes with applications that say that methodology was not enough, but it's sometimes difficult to balance that. And I repeat, this you have a specific referee judging that. So even if you get, you can always listen to what he's saying, but this is not a guarantee that changing that is improving your proposal, because you don't know who will be the next reviewer. So don't overthink it. It's just, you obviously don't want to do a too simple methodology just because you don't know it, or you don't want to write it, but because there is a limit, you have to balance that with the rest of the application.
And I think too, you or your sponsor are presumably really experts in the field you're writing in, and sort of don't, and it's very tempting to address every little, we're going to use this method. Of course, so-and-so thought it was bad, so we're going to use this little variation of the method. And so don't fall into the trap of getting bogged down in the small details that don't matter so much. but really think carefully about what the reviewers actually need to know to assess if the project is feasible, and don't worry too much about all the details that an expert like yourself and your sponsor might want to know, but which aren't actually critical to doing the project.
That's very sound advice. And I think, you know, maybe the best way if people are new to writing these kind of applications is maybe do write everything at the beginning and then kind of crease out those, like, as you said, those more really finer detailed things that possibly can be put into just saying a statement with your references then following that, so people can see what the literature is and what people have said about certain techniques, for example. Thank you for your answers there, Nydia. I think there's another question that's just popped into the chat there. I don't have it open here,
Yeah,
but
there is. So Sonia asks if there is an interview stage for
No.
this application. No. That's
Not
an
unless
easy
that's
answer.
changed, but it was not when I applied. Yeah.
I believe it's the same. That I haven't seen anything. I actually did search quite a bit trying to find if there was, what were the stages of this application, but it seems to be the submission itself and then waiting for the responses, of which I should note that if people really want to apply this year, I think it's March is the deadline this year for the following, say, for an intake of October 2024 applicants. A question that I had written down here from what you've both said that you benefited from say after getting your funding is the follow-up funding. I was wondering if both of you could tell me a little bit more about that and what the funding was for, and was it for, say, for example, based on work that you already done in your Newton Fellowship, or was it to help you kind of expand? It would be really nice to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, do you want to start, Tori?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think yeah, so it was very helpful. I actually forget whether the funding can only be used for travel or whether it can also be used for like analyses. But it can be either for the fellow to travel back to the UK or for like the UK sponsors to travel to visit the fellow. And I believe you do have to write a little proposal of what project it is you're planning on doing. And I think for me, it was always something that built upon what I did during the fellowship, but wasn't, you know, it wasn't like exactly within what we proposed for the fellowship itself. And then for me, that was impacted by COVID. So once the pandemic started, there were a few years where I couldn't travel due to that. But we had a few years that worked out well.
Okay, I can say that you can do analysis with that for sure. It's not just for travel. You need to apply each year and present a project each year with a budget, and they give you the money or not. I always was successful with that, so I guess something needs to go wrong so that you don't get these small projects. And I think I wanted to say something else.
I think you have to send them your receipts within a year or something, or even maybe say what you did.
But not all the receipts. All the receipts above, I think it's £200. So
right.
It's not everything. And in my case, my first project was with researchers from Bristol, but now I'm applying with researchers from other institutions in the UK, and I've changed my subject, and that's perfectly fine. So the aim is to have collaborations with institutions in the UK, and that's it. You don't need to build upon your Newton Fellowship for those projects.
Okay,
That's
thank
very,
you.
yeah, I was
Sorry,
gonna
Nydia,
say
yeah,
that,
go ahead.
I was gonna say that's very, it's a very nice thing that they will keep funding for you to keep having small collaborations with UK researchers. And you know, I would expect just that they would do it just with the host institution that you were doing your postdoc, but it's very nice to see that they also do it with other institutions and other projects that don't have anything to do with what you did first. So yeah, very nice. We don't have any more questions here. Do you have any more questions, Orla?
I do. I'm trying to go through my question list here. There was one that I wanted to ask you both. Yeah, so both of you, I think both of you were talking about your rejections in the past of applying to other applications, this one as well. And I'm just wondering, what are the kind of most significant lessons that you learned from the rejections that you were able to put into this fellowship that you think made it a bit more of a success, or do you think it was just pure luck?
As I said, there is a point of luck in which ones are successful and which ones not. Mainly because if you're recycling your project and it fails 4 times and the 5th time it is you get the funding, it's probably not so different from the 4th time. So I would say that each reviewer is different, and you can control that. You can write the best project you are able to write, but that's it. Then this same project, some people will like it and some people not. So that's not under your control.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just the right place, right time kind of situation. Because it depends, like Arne said, on who the reviewers are, how interesting they find the project, if they either have the expertise to maybe see the things you don't say, depends on who else applied and what the other projects are like and all of that. But I have found there is just a very specific way of writing like grant applications that's basically for these fellowships as well. And you sort of just have to learn that. And then I think for this fellowship, it really helped that Dr. Gabbett was very good at that type of writing. So she helped a lot with that. And I've been learning it as I go as well. And it really does come down to, I think, some of the things I've mentioned before, like that you have to mention, you have to mention specifics of the method and the feasibility of the project, but don't get bogged down in excessive details. Make sure you really clearly tailor your application towards the things they want in the call for proposals or whatever. Make sure you clearly demonstrate how your background expertise and everyone else's expertise is relevant to the project. A good budget matters as well, to show that you are asking for the amount of money you need, but not asking excessively. But you should go to the budget max, but just make sure what you ask for, it doesn't look like you're padding the budget, but it also doesn't look like you're missing things you'll need to do the project. And I do think the main thing they care about is the project feasible, and have you demonstrated that? And will the project, advance science in a meaningful way? So.
Very sound advice there. Thank you, Tori. Arne, do you want to add to that at all?
No.
I guess I only have then one more question for you both, which is sort of just a roundup question. What would be your 1 or 2 pieces of advice that you would like to give the ECRs, or if you're in the same position again, what would be the 1 or 2 main points that you would want them to know or to encourage in the grant writing process in general, not just about this Newton Fellowship?
I think for me, the biggest, or go ahead, Arno.
Sorry. I would say that you need to cope with this rejection. So you need to learn that, because it's not just for the applications. You will get that with papers too. So it doesn't matter. Each rejection makes it easier to accept. So just don't give up. I think that would be my advice. If you think you are prepared, it eventually will. The funding will arrive one way or another in the end.
Yeah, I think the two things, I definitely second what Arno said, be resilient to rejections. You'll be getting many of them. Just don't take them to heart. They're learning experiences and just keep trying. Because a big aspect of it is luck, the more you apply, the more likely you'll eventually get something. And then the other thing is, because it's such a specialized way of writing, of proposing your projects, and it's not something you really officially learn as a student, I find it's just, to reiterate something I've mentioned a lot, is having good mentors who are experienced in the general grant writing or fellowship writing process, who can help you learn that. And the best way to learn is try it and have these mentors revise and send back drafts, and you can see what they changed and eventually get a feel for how things should be written. And don't be shy to approach mentors. If someone's not going to help you, even if they're technically your mentor, asking them for help will keep you in the same position of just not having advice from them. But if you ask, maybe they're willing to give you help they wouldn't have thought to otherwise suggest. So don't hesitate to reach out to your official mentors or unofficial mentors who have helped you with things.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much for that information. I think it's something that comes up in these webinars so many times about rejections, and unfortunately getting used to those rejections, but not taking it to heart, and using the good feedback and the criticism that you get to write better reviews, reaching out to people who aren't just your official mentors, but other mentors in your field. Never be scared to email people, I think, and ask for examples of applications as well. That's always a really good starting point for those who are new to grant writing process. And also it might be a good time as well to highlight that the PALAS does have a mentorship scheme for those who are looking for it. A lot of the questions that came in today were about the grant writing process, the details, how much detail to put in. All those kind of things are great questions to ask a mentor, and you can do that by going on to the PALAS mentor scheme, and you can find someone who is either in or outside your field who can help you with writing a grant and give you advice on how best to approach a particular grant that you're going for. So I would definitely encourage people to look there as well. With that in mind, I'm going to wrap it up now. Again, thank you both so much. It was really informative. I always really appreciate when people are really honest with their experiences and all their rejections. And it's nice to see the success down the line, and the fact that both of you, it's been some years since then and now, and to see that both of you are doing so well since then. So I really appreciate it. Tori, thank you so much for tuning in when I know you're a good few hours behind us here in Europe. So thank you so much.
Not bad at all. It's around noon here, so it's a good time.
Okay, good. I wasn't really sure. So
yeah.
I was worried it was going to be very early in the morning for you. With that in mind, I'll just give one more plug to this evening in, I think it's about 20 minutes away or so, is Paleo Vision. So anybody who still needs their fix of paleo this evening, Paleo Vision is happening. I'm going to put it into the chat just now where you can sign up. It's just a quick form. You put in your email and they just ask 2 questions, and then you can log in and watch that. I think it's possibly already started. I'm not really sure, but the judging hasn't. It's up to you. Some people, it might be too much now at this point in the evening, but I will leave it there in case anybody wants to sign up. Nydia, thank you so much for co-hosting again. And Arno and Tori, have a really good evening. Tori, you good afternoon. So thank you all. And this is the end of our winter series of these postdoc funding chats. And I'm hoping that we can bring back another series in the spring, summertime on other grant applications and other experiences. So with that, thank you all very much. And we'll see you next time. Thank you again, guys. Take care.